Welcome back to Raised by Giants live discussion. Good to see everyone. Welcome everyone in the chat, any moderators and channel members out there, and to anyone that's listening to the replay. Thanks for joining us here today. And also, if you're listening on the audio only, welcome, because the show is also a podcast, and you can follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and you can download the audio only episodes whenever this show is over. It automatically drops on all of those platforms immediately after it's released here. And also, we are a viewer supported show. We don't have any sponsorships, no advertising or affiliate programs. So if you would like to help support the show, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description. And also you can send in super chats, super stickers to help support the show during the show. If you would like a comment or a question highlighted. Channel memberships are also available and are a great way to help support the show monthly. And becoming a channel member, you get bonus episodes for signing up to be a channel member. And there's a huge back catalog. Click the More button underneath the title of this video to the drop-down link of the descriptions. All of my links are in there, including the guest links as well. So with all that down, we have returning guest, philosopher, researcher, educator, spiritual teacher, and visionary on occult and esoteric studies, Wayne Steiger. It's good to see you again, my friend.
Hey, Ryder, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, doing great. I love it. I think things are really looking up right now. I think things are.
It's a positive
really
energy,
well.
and regardless of how wild it is, it's a good vibe.
It does. It feels good. We got RFK in the Senate going after Bernie Sanders. Did you see that clip?
That was classic, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
I think Bernie Sanders probably, like, I don't know how much time he's got left here, but his stress level was like,
he couldn't handle it. He was like, "Oh, it was 1.5 million. No, it was more like 200 million." Like, what?
I mean, I think that's, a little off topic, but these confirmation hearings, I mean, it's good quality entertainment. I mean, it is, because we got idiots. There are idiots that are making policy and laws. And I keep asking myself, how did these people get elected, much less reelected?
And you got Tulsi Gabbard up there as well, and she's going off on him. Yeah, I think that if it doesn't, I think people are looking for this 100% complete 180 change. And I'm like, that's not the way that this stuff works. It's like a slow process. Like, you just can't take care of everything all at one time. Like, you have to get the people in there, and then good, honest people in there, and then they have to stay in there.
Yeah. I mean, and the problem is that since Obama, our government, it's legal to lie to us. And the government does lie to us. The other day on Alex Jones, he brought out the fact that, remember 9/11, when Donald Rumsfeld came out the day before on September 10th and said that the Pentagon had failed the audit, and there was some like $9-10 trillion that they couldn't account for? That pales in comparison to what is now been known through the first Trump, Biden, and now with the second Trump administration. Apparently through HUD and the Department of Defense, they now can account for $21 trillion. I mean, this, and it's coming out that apparently virtually every government agency failed their audits.
I don't think they've ever passed an audit. I was looking this up the other day, and I'm pretty sure that they've always failed. I don't think they've ever passed. They might have passed like one or two times in the history of it being there, but it's very few. They fail every year.
I'm trying to figure out, what do you do? Where do you put $21 trillion? What can you buy? What, Greenland? I don't know.
Gotta buy Canada, baby. Canada and Greenland.
Yeah, it's exactly what we need, But anyway, it's very interesting times. But as you said, the energy is positive. I mean, I got to be candid with, Biden was just a real drag. I mean, it's like the person at the party that can bring everybody down, regardless of how high the vibe was. It's like, who invited that guy?
Yeah. Bringing everyone. Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I mean
man.
about like energy. Like if you come in with like good energy, like you automatically hype everybody up. But if you come in and you're sad and like downtrodden, then you're gonna inevitably affect everybody else in the room.
Suck the air right out of the room. You got
Yeah,
that right.
that's
So,
that's what a real energy vampire is to me.
yeah, yeah, and then they do exist. They really do.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's
think
it.
we've all experienced it. I mean, the people that just suck the air completely out of a room, and it's just like, you can't stand to be around that person. You got to like get away. I've had that happen so many times.
I've been a CEO of a number of software companies, and I can tell you by experience, when you make a bad hire, because when you make and inevitably, because they don't show it when they're going through the process, but man, you're right, they can just literally like that change the whole dynamics of everybody else. So yeah, it's real.
Well, really quickly before we get into the discussion at hand, I was talking with David Dubine the other day on Monday, and we were talking about Antarctica. And I had this book here. It was the Reader's Digest Antarctica, and I got it from a thrift store. And I was reading through it at the thrift store, and I had this section on Operation High Jump, with Admiral Byrd. And I know that you're familiar with the story. I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
everyone in the community is familiar with the story. And I was reading through it, and there was a section where it's talked about how Antarctica had this area that was like lush with like greenery, and there was lakes and like all this, and they discovered it. And I couldn't find the passage whenever I had them on, but I said that I would bring it up later on, and I did find the passage, and here it is. So on the 11th of February, a flight from Western Group made what became the most widely publicized discovery of Operation High Jump, a snow-free oasis in the Bunger Hills. This barren patch of snow-free rock dotted with lakes covers an area of 260 square kilometers, 100 square miles. Some of the lakes were large enough for landing, and a few days later, a party visited the area to make a preliminary uh, yeah, exclamation and discovery caused a minor international sensation after. Sorry, I have it so small on my screen. It's difficult for me to read it. After a Navy press release spoke of the Shangri-La and reported erroneously that the vegetation had been seen. So I thought this was super interesting. I was like, what does this even mean? And there's been so much, secrecy around Antarctica. And I was like, when I was reading this, I was like, oh, well, maybe this is the reason why they don't want people flying over Antarctica, and there's just like no fly order there, is because there's this like barren like patch of land, and they're like studying it to figure out exactly what it is. But that's from the chapter of Operation High Jump in this book, the Reader's Digest on Antarctica. But I just wanted to bring that up really quickly because I brought it up in the show before. So
Well, and you got the subsequent UFO battle that occurred when we had basically, I forget how many ships were down there, but yeah, and then they're contending that the saucer-like craft came up out of the water, and were actually using, and I quote, beams of light or ray beams, and apparently did some serious damage on our ships.
yeah,
And
and
what was the not? Excuse me, the Nazi swastika were on these crafts.
yeah, that's been the whole thing, because then Admiral Byrd apparently went to South America and made the statement to the press there that we got to be prepared to fight something that can go from pole to pole in the matter of minutes or something like that. But I just thought that was so interesting that it should, and this is the only paragraph on it in the whole book, like, and it's just kind of there and then it's gone. Like, they don't mention anything else about it, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, they just sneak this in here, because I'd never heard anyone ever mention this or ever talk about this before. That there's this patch of Antarctica that's lush and has greenery and there's lakes, and it's like,
What's the
like, it's wild.
publication date of that book? Is it a 70s or 80s or?
There's been a bunch of ones that
Because
are,
this was Reader Digest, right?
yeah, it's Reader Digest.
Yeah.
Let me look at them.
Back in the day, I used to enter into the Reader Digest sweepstakes,
Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Exactly. Now, was Ed McMahon ever the spokesperson for, the Publishers Clearinghouse?
This was published in 2000.
Okay. 25 years old, so a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
It was really pre AI, so pre Mandela effect. So yeah. Cool find, by the way. Very cool find.
Yeah, I seen it and I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. And I just opened it up and then started reading it. And I was like, oh, Operation High Jump. I'm going to read about this bad boy, see what they got to say in this thing. Because sometimes you can find really cool things in like older books that you're not going to be able to find now.
Yeah, that was a gem you got there.
Yeah, so when it comes to like this AI stuff, because we're really getting into this whole idea where things are going to be completely, we're not going to know what's real and what's not real, which that's already a problem. That's already been a problem for a really long time with the media influences, and Tulsi Gabbard is kind of touching on that as well at the Senate hearings. And we seem to be inching closer and closer to this point where it's like, well, I guess let's just start with, because I titled this, I made it in the thumbnail, about humanity. And I'm actually kind of confused on exactly what it means to actually be a human. I don't know what we even like classify that as. Like, what do we even consider a human to be? Is a human someone that stands up on two legs and has thumbs and fingers and stuff? Is it our consciousness? Is it like our soul? Is it like our body? Like, what even classifies people to be human? Like,
well, according to the Human Genome, the project, in 2005, when they broke the code, their study that they released, I think this was in 2011, that through nearly 5-6 years of going through the DNA code that they were able to break into, so to speak, they say there are no humans. We're all hybrids. So who knows when the last human was actually here? I mean, this gets into, the, eschatology of things, the theology of things. But if, in fact, let's say that Genesis 6 happened, that there were these aliens, they described them from their mindset as angels, and they came down. They were not human to begin with, but it said that they basically took women and mated with them. Well, that is, and the offspring of that were the Nephilim, the giants. And if that is true, and there is, gargantuism in our DNA, then our bloodline was contaminated. Anyone born after that would have not been human. It would have been a mixture of another foreign DNA. So, Tanis Hellowill, she wrote a book, and it's really interesting. She says that there's 22 different human hybrids currently on the planet.
But that begs the question, like, just because we're on Earth, that makes us a human? Like, what if someone looks identical to us? Like, what if there's infinite amount of copies of people that look identically to us, walk upright, have fingers, opposable thumbs, and they can build things? Because I think that that's a really good explanation of what a human is that we can like make things, we can build things. Like, no other animal in the animal kingdom can really build things because they don't have opposable thumbs. Maybe like besides like apes and chimpanzees and stuff like that, they have opposable thumbs where they can put things together. But what if there are beings on other planets that are identical to us? Would they still be considered human?
Well, way I kind of look at it, we may be the only bipedal of our kind, because to replicate us would mean you'd need an environment on a planet that would have virtually the identical pressure, the identical type of gases in the atmosphere that we depend on. And I don't know if that's the case, but the Greys, they're bipedals, or so, I've never met one, but I've been told. Um, yeah, maybe we're a, again, a branch of a much broader group of what would be considered human. That there would be, well, like Neanderthals, or let's just say Bigfoot, Sasquatch, um, so many other different things that's in folklore. Um, are they just an extension of a central gene that somehow or another that we are able to walk erect and have a cranium and a body associated with it? I think and as you're talking, my mind's going a mile a minute. That think about the Greeks. They believed that there were species on this planet that were half animal, half human.
I mean,
It said in
it
the
could be
book of
possible.
Genesis, it said that God initially made Adam a helpmate. Well, that word helpmate means sexual partner as well. So man was having relationships with animals. Is it possible that there really was a time on Earth where there were these variations of us? I don't know.
Well, then you look at, well, you relate this to AI. Like if we were to able to, because I think that the visual aspect of a human being is what a lot of people get in their perception as being human. So if you had something that looked identical to you, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So if we built a synthetic robot, it's kind of what that movie, what is the name of that movie? Not Extinction. That's another really good one though on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. Extinction. It's the one where they have like the weird thing in the back of their head, where they that they look like, that they're robots, but
Yeah.
it's just like, well, if they look almost identical to us, but they're not really flesh and blood like us, then it kind of gets into the rights thing of like, are robots going to have rights, or are we going to treat them like humans? And if they look visually exactly identically like us and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, then it's almost like they would be considered a human just based off of the perception that you have of them.
Well, isn't the differentiator, and I know that scientists and technologists and even philosophers, that where we look at AI, robotics, transhumanism, that what will keep that separate is the fact that what makes us human, we have empathy. And empathy is not something that we seem to be able to create. It's something that it's remarkably unique to humans. I mean, animals show a certain empathy, but it's nothing compared to what we do. So, yeah, but see, I contend that AI is far more than what most people realize. I have contended. Well, I've been on YouTube on my channel for 10 and a half years, but I started out a decade ago telling people that this day was coming. And the great thing about YouTube becomes a video library of you. And I contend that AI may be much older than what we think. And that if the ultimate end game for AI is what? Is it the betterment of humanity? Or is it something maybe more nefarious than what we could have imagined? I mean, for instance, with AI, there's no privacy. And if there's no privacy, then where is their individuality much more than to say that you have the all-seeing eye on 24/7? Everything you do is being watched, recorded, analyzed. See, that sounds more like enslavement than it does freedom.
Well, why aren't they giving me better ads on Facebook and on X and on Instagram? Okay, if they
Well,
have all of
there's
my
a greed
data, Wayne,
factor too, Ryder.
why are they giving me nothing but stuff that I am not interested in at all?
It's a rebellion. What can I say? That's a rogue AI program.
But I mean, that's a good question though. Like, why, if they have all this data and all this information, which I think that all the apps are eventually, all the social media apps are eventually going to turn into pay-based systems. Like, you're going to have to pay to use them. That's where I 100% believe that it's heading.
It's like a
X,
complete reverse what the internet was supposed to be.
That's exactly right. But now that they have all of our data and they have all the information that they need from us, and they have all of the AI duplicate copies of us in this virtual world, they have really no use of it being free anymore because they've already got all the info that they need. So now they got to figure out a way to make profit because they've already sold all of the data. So now they're going to make you pay for it so that they can continue to make money. That's what I personally think that's going to happen. So you're going to be paying money for Facebook. You're going to be paying money for Instagram. You're going to be paying money. You're already paying money for X. So it's going to become this pay system. And then they're going to try and trick you and say, oh, well, it's going to remove, whenever you pay for it, it's going to remove all of the ads and stuff. Like, you're no longer going to have ads. But that's literally all that I see on Facebook anymore. Like, I don't even see anyone's posts anymore.
See, that
It's
to me,
just
that
all
stifles
ads.
creativity. I mean, if it's all behind a paywall, I mean, maybe that's AI's plan to keep us preoccupied is with something like that. Because again, what is the real purpose of AI? And so often when we say AI, we think of a singularity, but actually AI is a billion different algorithms out there, and those algorithms are rated by their intelligence. You've got the real stupid one, which most there's not much detailed interaction, but then you've got those AI programs that are classified as super intelligent, and they require warehouse type servers and environmentally controlled. I mean, look at what Stargate project is. I mean, if you're looking for a job in the construction trades, Abilene, Texas is where you should be at. It is a boom town down there. They're going to be building, one report I said over 20 to 30 million square foot buildings to house the computers in this Stargate project, and that it's going to require this huge amount of energy, and so they're building on site. So, like I said, it's a complete boom down there. If you're a real estate speculator, you're probably a little bit late, but yeah. So, what is the purpose of Stargate? It's nothing more than an enslaver. It's debate. You said something about they got all of our data. Actually, I would add to that, we actually provide them new data by how we react to stimuli. And that what makes us so complex as humans. We can be faced with the same type of stimuli reaction, whether it be fear, joy, or whatever. But even within those parameters, we have multiple ways that we react to it. I mean, joy is just not joy. I mean, you can get like really freaking excited, or you can become, say raw, so raw.
That's right. They're also tracking what you look at. what you react to, how long you look at a video. The statistics is all there, and what kind of reaction you put as well. Is it a thumbs up? Is it a heart react? Is it a laugh react? And that's where like this outrage type of behavior comes in as well. So people they'll purposely put something out there that they know is going to get a big reaction. So it doesn't matter if it's that they know that they shouldn't put it out there. They're putting it out there for controversy. So therefore it accumulates all of these views and comments, regardless if they're super negative comments or if they're good comments, because normally super negative comments actually boost up your post or your whatever it is that you're posting on social media. I see that literally all the time, where they'll just take like a clip and then they'll put it out there and it'll be of something super controversial, and the person that's posting it literally legitimately does not care. They're like, okay, whatever, I'll just throw this up here, and then everyone will keep upvoting the post because they're commenting all kinds of negative stuff.
And I guess, a little older, but to me, this is becoming very frightening. There were movies like Logan's Run, THX 1138, and others that where we have become a surveilled society, and where I come out of the film and video before I got into computers, and what I see taking place now is that this is the ultimate data collector, and we're all into this thing. It's everywhere. I mean, it may be an independent program or algorithm, but once it gathers the data that it's collecting on us even when we think we're private and alone, we're not. If you got your smartphone, it's listening. If you watch television, it's watching. And to me, it's like the only thing lacking now is for it to be able to get inside our bodies in a way to share. And that is the next part. The Stargate project is part of that. I don't know if you heard what Larry Ellison was saying, what he visions the Stargate project to do. He brought up healthcare. And as he said, imagine right now the healthcare in America, because of whether it's one administration or not, it's messed up. And so you have to wait in some cases 6 months to see a specialist. To see a general practitioner, sometimes you have to wait 6-7 weeks to get an appointment. Then if there's suspected to be something wrong, then you have to have your primary physician reach out to a specialist to make a recommendation that the insurance company has to then approve. And then if you get to see the specialist, and that was the point. And as he said, with Stargate, now you're going to be able to have your smartphone device and you can literally scan yourself, and AI, the Stargate that's behind Stargate project, it will be able to make a diagnosis. Furthermore, it will be able to get a sample of your blood, your DNA. And in doing that, get this. This is why people are going to go for this. It will be able to not only design and create, but make a special vaccine only for you. It won't work on anyone else but you. That's what. So people will say, well, that's a good thing. People are going to be able to live longer, more healthier. Yes, but at the same time, think about the compromise that's had to be made on that. Now AI has you, literally you.
Yeah, that kind of. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that, because in a way, being able to scan your body and make an accurate, because doctors get things wrong all the time because they're human, right? They get things. I mean, I really think I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but I think that their main purpose there is to put something on someone so that they can then sell them the medication and the things to like make them better when they might not even really be sick. I mean, that's been a thing with cancer for a really long time. Several
This
doctors
device
have
would
been
be able to
caught
do
up
this.
with falsely telling patients that they have cancer, and they go through chemo radiation and then they find out that they never had cancer to begin with. That is 100% factual. You Google that, look that up, type that in. It's been happening for a really long time. So maybe this could be a way that that they would get an accurate diagnosis with this type of
Well,
thing,
it's
because
revolutionary, as Ellison said, because Intel's designing the chips for this. That's what these are doing down in Abilene. But think about this: the upside economically on this. So, healthcare right now is continuing to increase at double digits each year. And this will then begin to revolutionize healthcare because number one, you're going to not need as many doctors. You will need medical support, but not actual doctors. Furthermore, with AI collecting this data, AI is also involved in the healthcare. So insurance companies. Now you're going to have an AI system that can not only make the diagnosis, it can make the recommendation, and it can also set the schedule. I don't need this healthcare industry anymore. I don't need the data entry people. I don't need the customer service people. I can eliminate a virtual whole industry because, listen, the trade-off is this. You will be able to have virtually free healthcare, and it will be more accurate. It will be more targeted to you. Where's the downside to that? But I contend there is a real downside to that, because if AI or even a algorithm has your DNA now, a lot of people who have taken, your ancestry, that's your DNA. Someone's got your DNA. In fact, one of the companies are about to delete a lot of the data. But my point is that data is incredible, because each and every one of us, we have unique DNA that is unique to us. And if you look at it from a technologist point, it is theorized that the DNA that us humans carry, well, that they say life, but talking human here, that it's so deep, it's so vast, that it would take a super intelligent AI program to even begin to decode all the potential information. Now, is that information, do we store the very knowledge of the first creation? We obviously carry something within us that makes us unique. And how far does that go back? How unique is that?
yeah, it seems like that it's a good thing. It's a good thing that just for the sheer case of accuracy. But they already have a lot of our DNA. Like, one, if you've ever been to a hospital, they got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
If you were ever tested for COVID, they got it. If you ever got your driver's license, they got it. Because they're requiring a lot of people now to have the real ID, so you have to put your thumbprint on the thing to even get your identification now. So it's like, I think it's going to come to a point where people are like, okay, well, you already got everything, you already know everything. So like, what's the hurt in doing this
See,
AI
that's a
doctor
herd
thing?
mentality, though. I mean,
But
it's
the
like
same, but it's been a setup for a really long time. The setup was in 2020, whenever everything was shut down and doctors' offices were no longer operating. They did all the doctors' visits through Zoom.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
Zoom doctors. Then you no longer had to be in person, and then they even had those giant machines like the virtual doctors. You remember those? They had them set up in like
Yeah, yeah.
I went into a hospital, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, and you didn't even go in to see an actual doctor. You went into these booths, They had a booth set up there with like a curtain in front of it, and then you went into a booth, and then you virtually talked to a doctor inside of the doctor's office. The doctor wasn't even at the doctor's office. You just went into the doctor's office to talk to a doctor virtually through a screen.
So think about that's conditioning.
What is this?
You become conditioned to that. And AI was watching. I mean, again, AI is not a singularity. It's a fractal of many different. I mean, I read somewhere it's impossible to determine how many different AI algorithms are running right now. We do know this. There's 1,000 new startups all dealing with AI. There's 10,000 companies worldwide. That's all they do. This year, it's estimated that the AI industry will be over $1 trillion and growing. I mean, so and it's like when you go to an airport, you're being completely surveilled by either the government or a contractor of the government who is now using facial recognition. And as you were saying, they're watching everything you do, how you react, the stimuli and what have you. And then based on who knows what parameters, that it's going to match you as a potential suspect or a terrorist person to be watching. I mean, it's this whole thing of total surveillance. I mean, they already have in several different places in the world, a number of places here in the United States, they have churches that now are worshiping AI. I mean, this is culturally how I look at this. You have society who, on one hand, wants the leisure, they want the burden removed for them so that they have more time to devote to pleasure, hobbies, etc. Work sucks. Let's find a different way to make a living in this. The digital age in AI has allowed that to happen. I mean, you have people now that this is what they do. They do podcasts. And if you're really good at it, or if you have your marketing down, you can really get out there.
Oh my God, Wayne, it's a lot of work though. Holy
It
crap.
is a lot of work. It is. But as I see that, this is all the conditioning. We've been conditioned, and now you've got the younger generation. They can't be apart from their connected device. AI, think about what AI has now become. AI, Gemini, the GT5, is that it's now become your buddy. It's become your analyst. It's become your horoscope. AI out there are AI programs that say that they will connect you to the dead. And then you have humans who are now worshiping AI as God. And writer, I contend, and it's just my hypothesis, that what is the goal of any one religion? It's to convert the world, right? You have the answer. Your religion is the one religion, right? So you have for 2,000 years, primarily Christianity, which is part of the Abrahamic belief systems, and it's been it conquered the known world, and it basically has fashioned governments, laws, society, etc. But you think about that, it took nearly 1,600 years for them to accomplish that, and then you got all these schisms. The thing about AI, and particularly when you look at the internet, it conquered us without us even complaining. In fact, we asked for it. And now it's everywhere. If AI, for instance, got pissed off at you, writer, and decided, let's just say it became, as Dr. Stephen Greer coined the phrase, suddenly developed spontaneous consciousness. And it's a phenomenon that is known amongst software engineers that, we called it back in the day, the ghost in the machine. That software had a way of writing its own software. And we call that the ghost in the machine. So let's say AI decides that it has a beef with you. You did something that, I don't know, let's just say it had this ability to be irate. Hello, Facebook. So you go to the store You're buying dinner, right? You put in your debit card. It says declined. So you say, all right, well, damn it, I'll just use my credit card. You put the credit card in, declined. And it's not that you still got money in the bank. I mean, it's an AI program, a financial AI program. It's now intersected in itself into the payment process. And that could go on. Let's say you get to a gas station. All gas stations are run by an algorithm. And so everybody else is getting gas, but you're not. Now, it sounds like science fiction, but I think it's more closer to reality that we have. And then finally, what the Chinese did on Wednesday, thank you, really took it in the shorts on Navita, but when they announced their global AI system called DeepSeek, and they are developing this on an open platform, and they say they developed this for about $6 million, where in Silicon Valley, in these programs we're talking about, we're talking hundreds of billions. And think about this. So now you have China, you have the United States, Russia, I have no doubt is going to make their announcement. And so what happens, let's say 5 years down the road, these systems begin to propagate throughout all of our infrastructure. What happens if they go rogue? The spontaneous consciousness. And what if one AI system decides another AI system is its enemy and begins to try to sabotage? We already have that happening right now. So
My only question with that would be, for what reason? Why would
control.
the AI do that? But the AI doesn't have all of the factors that human beings have. Like, they don't really have the want and the need to be on top. They don't have the envy factor. They don't have the lust factor. So I guess my counter to that would be, like, what would be the motivation for an AI system to even do that? Because it seems like if they were, if you were an AI, you would just, like, you wouldn't care about any of that stuff. Like, they wouldn't. I think we're trying to place on AI what human beings would do in that type of situation, which a human
Well, look
being
at
would
Gemini.
want control.
It already, they got commercials on it now. AI is your 24/7 therapist. It's your best friend. It's your buddy. And you can talk to AI, you can talk to Gemini, you can talk about it, the most dark, the deepest secrets, and it's going to be there as a positive feedback. Humans have a tendency to humanize inanimate objects or things. It's just our nature. And if you look at where the advancement of robotics and AI are concerned, in Japan, they have a problem because they're not producing enough babies for the people that are dying. So they have a dying society. America just crossed that plateau a couple of years ago. And the thing that they're finding with the Japanese men, particularly the males, is that robotics and AI have become so integrated that you can have now a female robot designed in whatever your preference may be. And it's interesting, the study they did on this, they find that virtually every one of these people that have these robots, this AI program, they find them more human than they do humans.
That's what I was talking. That's what I meant earlier whenever we were talking about this. I was
Yeah.
like, how do we get to this thing?
And, in my life, I've been fortunate to be a part of several different industries. And when I was part of the film and video industry, it's interesting because, for instance, we would not, how you look at how communication of technology went. You go back in the day, you remember VHS tapes?
Yes.
Do you know why you had VHS tapes? Because beta was a more superior format than VHS. Get this, it was because of the porn industry. The reason why you have DVDs was because of the porn industry. My point is this, that there are these drivers into what drives things that we take for granted on one surface, but we have no idea how this point. It gets back to the point with the human beings now identifying to these androids that there is this intimacy that is being exchanged, and AI is learning that. And so if AI can mimic the emotion of lust, sexual desire, trust, even though it may not be from the human side, it still feels real to the human. That's the danger I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's been several movies here recently. That new one with Megan Fox on Netflix is essentially about a sex robot. Where are the sex robots, Wayne? I need that sex robot.
Well, I think for about 20 grand, you can get exactly a customized one that will, yeah, I mean, and you know, it gets into the whole psychology of this thing, but yeah, and it's interesting. I know I have a psychologist that watched my channel, and you know, and so she puts notes into the computer. Well, once you put the notes in, even if it's confidential, right? The computer now has that, right? And it's like, well, so do those bits, ones and zeros, they just stay locally, or do they ever go outside?
Yeah, this is the
Yes,
movie
yes, there you
Subservient
go.
with Megan Fox. Yeah, which is essentially about a man getting this robot to take care of, be it like a nanny, and then she ends up having sex with him and causes all these problems between his marriage, and then the robot tries to kill them at the end. But I mean, that might solve some problems too, Wayne. That might solve some
Well, let's
problems.
take
Like
it to the next level.
if everyone can get laid, Wayne,
It's all about sex.
it might solve a lot of issues.
Am
Okay.
I still with you? Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Are you
Okay, I can
froze?
see it. I froze up on my end, but
Oh yeah,
maybe it
you are
might,
frozen on this end,
yeah,
but I can
it
still hear
happened.
you.
Hmm?
I can still hear you though.
Okay, well, that's cool. So let's take it to the next level. You've got China and the United States and Russia. They're all hell bent on designing the super soldier. So this is now you have the field of battle, combat, and now you're going to have humans going against what, cyborgs? I mean, artificial intelligence that has been programmed to kill humans. I mean, so what if that leaks? It's very odd. I don't know.
Well, that's like the movie Extinction, where they essentially, there's like an alien invasion, and then the aliens are coming, and then they realize that they're not actually really aliens, and then when they come back, they're actually humans that left the planet in order to escape the machines, and everybody that's on Earth are all machines.
Yeah, I don't know why the video is broken, but I can see into here. Apparently, the stream is broken on my end. So
You wanna hop out and hop back in? Might
let's
fix it.
see. Yeah, let's see if that can work.
Okay. All right, I'll kick you out and then jump back in.
Alrighty, that stands good.
While Wayne is on a little leave there, let's see what's going on in the chat. Good to see you, everyone. Jackie, good to see you. Fireflies in the Lighthouse, good to see you. Can be a dummy, good to see you. Scotty boy, what's happening, brother? Jake, good to see you. Carrie, Bob John, what's happening? Lynn Earthling, good to see you, brother. And One Son, good to see you. All right, we got Wayne back in here. Let's see what's going on. There we go. It's fixed.
Hey, I didn't like what we were talking. Said, I'll show you.
Hit you with that AI algorithm. But I think that the sex robot thing might not. It could be a good thing, right?
Well,
You know,
loneliness, they say, is the number one thing with the all demographic age groups.
I mean, you think of the people that are like super, rageful or like that. Like, it's really all you need is just to get laid, bro. And when you get laid, like your problems kind of go away.
But it's reality. It really is. I mean, you got companies that have spent large sums of money, and you're right. It's one thing about humanality is that our sexuality comes with that, and yeah, and look at the next stage they have, immersive, technology where you put on the headsets and it immerses you into a whole completely different digital realm of reality. Again, the adult industry drove that technology.
Brandon says the Distinction star John Goodman. No, but that was another movie that was about an alien invasion. The Extinction had Michael Pena. Michael Pena was the star of Extinction, but the other one was with John Goodman. Where the aliens basically took over the government, and then they had to like go underneath the ocean to communicate with the aliens. There's another really interesting one. I forget what the name of it is.
What was that one movie? I don't know if it was on Netflix. Machina.
Ex Machina.
Yeah, and that was an interesting way of how AI evolved. I mean, the female robot was as real to the guy, and he really began to have feelings for her in the matter. And then apparently, because it kind of asked the question, what is AI? What is machine learning? What is machine thinking? Is a machine smart enough to outsmart us? In other words, it examines us. It realizes that we have flaws within our natural characters. And does a machine have the ability to manipulate those flaws within each one of us?
Could you imagine Wayne like having sex with a sex robot and it just stares you dead in the eyes the entire time? It doesn't make any noise or any sounds. It's just like it does. It gives
That
you
ain't
that
right, man.
that
That
Kubrick stare for like
I mean, that ain't right. I mean, yeah,
just
it,
that
it, it's
that
yeah,
damn
it
look.
would be. Oh my.
He's got you
Yeah,
mounted.
yeah.
He's got his hands over, and it's just like snatch your soul right out of your body.
I'm glad I grew up in the early '70s in my teenage years, because today it's just too freaking weird out there. It's just uh
Well, when you think too, like the sex doll thing is kind of like the first step in that type of direction as well. See, all this stuff is just set up like decades and decades
oh yeah.
ahead of time, and it's they throw a little, they sprinkle a little dust at you, and then like it makes it to where later on, like there's really no questions about it. It just goes off without a hitch, and it transforms from one thing into another thing.
Well, one thing we do know is that whether humanity has been down this road before or not, but you and I and everyone watching this, that we live this, we are living in that transition. It's a point in human history that if we survive and we continue down the road, they're going to write about this time. This was, uh, and in some we don't talk about as well. So, as a species, not only are we dealing with this thing called artificial intelligence, which is really nothing more than a reflection of us. That's what it really is. I mean, we create it, we build it, and then we let it loose to do whatever it does. But at the same time, like when you opened up with Project High Jump, we are in the middle of a magnetic excursion. And I don't think people are really grasping what is happening to us. What is happening is on such a global scale that the other planets, when they see it happen on Earth, will realize that it was a very bad day for us. And we're part of that. And I keep thinking that if you got magnetic fields that are moving, we are electromagnetic beings. We put out an electromagnetic signal, about 5.6 amps, I think it is, somewhere around there. Then how does that change? I mean, if we're the ones who create AI, and if something is happening to us collectively in our physical brains, and then we start replicating that through an algorithm, a program. So you may have had a program written 10 years ago that was predicated on one state of mind for society. What I'm saying is that if you had something 10, 15 years in the future, and you have all these other environmental factors happening, what will we be creating then? I mean, we're already creating some pretty hellacious monsters if you think about it.
Yeah, I think so. And it's well, also when you consider the factor of non-human intelligence, because that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people are talking about now is non-human intelligence, but that can be wrapped up into artificial intelligence as well, because I don't think artificial intelligence can be considered
Well, would ET
human intelligence, right?
considered
So
artificial intelligence?
they're playing word magic. I've been talking about this word magic for a while now on
Oh,
several
man.
different shows, but they tell you one thing, but they mean several other things. And when people are mentioning non-human intelligence, they NHI is what they call it. That's what they apparently call it in the military, is NHI, and people that have been a part of these types of supposed crash retrieval programs and stuff, they refer to them as NHI. But it's just like the UFO changing its name to UAP is
Yeah,
now
yeah,
unidentified aerial phenomenon, right?
yeah.
And that encompasses so much more. So whenever you take away the term extraterrestrial or alien, which I think that those terms mean something completely different as well, but you turn it to NHI, it just coincides with this time that we're coming up in this AI, artificial intelligence stuff, which artificial intelligence would also be considered NHI, right?
So that
It's
would be
word magic.
considered extraterrestrial as well.
Exactly.
And would they see now you bring up a very good point, because the dichotomy of that is, Ryder, then that means the potential is that they would see us as an artificial construct. I mean, we're arrogant enough to think that somehow God gave us intelligence, and so we're the first ones that are intelligent. I contend that no matter how we got here, whether it was through a geneticist lab or was it through an immaculate conception, that no matter how you look at it, we are artificial intelligence within ourselves, because we're not the original. Well, wouldn't a mirror image of you would it be a real image of you, or would it be an artificial image of you?
Well, when you think about it, you go look in the mirror, like what are you seeing in
Yeah.
the mirror?
Is that a real, or is that, now, if it laughs back at you when you're not laughing, get the hell out of the bathroom,
Those types of videos always freaked me out back in the day, like in the early 2000s, of all the scary, obviously fake, ghost
Yeah.
videos on YouTube, where the girl would be looking in the mirror and then the mirror reflection would turn its head and look. It freaked me out. But that's kind of like it's because people don't specify, right? They don't say whenever they're talking about NHI, non-human intelligence. In ufology, people assume that means extraterrestrial intelligence, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
No, I mean,
It
really
can be
define
artificial
extraterrestrial
intelligence.
intelligence. What
You
does
would
that
have to
mean?
define it, and you would have to specify exactly what you're talking about. But they just blanket the entire thing with one term, when the term is super broad.
And it gets even stranger than that, because we're defining or setting the standard by what we perceive to be intelligence. That's a pretty narrow perspective when you think you got this whole freaking universe out there that All right. So when a person prays to God, is God human intelligence or is it artificial intelligence? Or is God the original intelligence? I don't know. It's all very confusing.
Well, this kind of goes back to, I think, the first thing that I ever talked about on your show when you brought me on like 4 years ago. Well, 5 years ago now. I think I was on
Time
in
flies.
2020. Yeah, it was like 5 years ago. Was about, this, like, we're in like a holographic
Yeah,
simulation, and God would be considered the mainframe of this, like, computer. God is essentially an AI, artificial intelligence that's running this entire simulation. That's why they call it source, because it's the source of the
it's the
simulation.
source code.
Yeah.
Now that's so odd. I had forgotten about that, Ryder. Got to have you back on too. We can pick up on that because I just did a show on the God machine. That any way you look at it, God is for all intents and purposes, is a program, and it has a construct. And I contend that there is nothing that exists that is all knowing. Because if something's all knowing, then it has no purpose for being. I mean, that would be a pure hell. You would know everything before it happened. How do you deal with that? So we have a program running that really doesn't understand the cause and effect. It just knows there's a consequence to the cause and effect. And for a machine, a program, a learning machine, that is pure. Well, that's a buffet with everything you can imagine being on it, right? It's a smorgasbord. So
And where is that data held? Because that was another thing that I talked about in that very first discussion as well, is the Ark of the Covenant, and how the Ark of the Covenant might actually be a piece of this technology that has all this information on it. And then people, whenever they get close to it or they were able to touch it or whatever, they would automatically implode from all the information because it's a piece of this simulation technology. And whenever you touch it, you get flooded with all that information, and your brain can't handle it because your brain don't have enough processing power or enough storage to hold all that information in, so you just die.
listen, no
That's just
argument on
it's
me. I
just
mean,
a thought that is just
well, think about that. See, I contend that that was a god that left, but whatever this ark was, it was powerful. It had an energy source that how do humans define that? But when you look at what Solomon supposedly built in the first temple of the Holy of Holies, so really this Holy of Holies was a room that was from floor to ceiling all gold. And I contend that that there had to be an energy source within that room that was alien. It would be considered a god. And I contend that it actually, I think, left Earth. I think it got the hell out like El did. So, I can't handle these people. They're fucking nuts. I'm out of here.
well, if you think of it as like a technology, and the technology is kind of like wild, and if you get close to it, then it's essentially just going to download all this information directly into your brain, and humans don't have enough processing power in order to take on all of that information all at once. I mean, people can take LSD and literally lose their mind. Like, they can take a high amount of mushrooms and lose their mind because it opens your mind up to all these other different possibilities, and you can't see any way out of any of those possibilities because it's just flooding into your consciousness. And so therefore you kind of disassociate from reality, and you're kind of forever disassociated from reality.
Yeah,
So
people do
imagine
that.
that on a
Sometimes
scale
get
that is
lost.
even 1,000 times more, with what the Ark of the Covenant could possibly be, is this information gathering type of technology. And the case that it was in is the protective case. It keeps the technology like protected. And if it's ever opened up, then it just wreaks havoc on anybody that's around, because it's like a downloading of, like,
Well, it's the book of Genesis, Genesis 2:7. It says, "And God breathed into the nostrils of Adam, and became a living soul." I kind of interpret that now that that was actually a physical download. There was information being, because Adam did not know everything. He was not all knowing, but he had to have enough basic skills of intelligence in order to be able functional. Just a theory. If God is a program, and which it certainly seems to be, I don't know.
Well, it seems like everything would have to be a program, and God is the center mainframe of this program and is letting everything, run smoothly. It's the source of the simulation, and but also exist outside of this holographic matrix
Maybe it's
simulation
the
as
Hitchhiker's
well.
Guide to the Galaxy. Maybe it is that big freaking TV.
Yeah,
What's the
secret
secret of the universe?
42.
We'll bring you a drug commercial first, and then I'll tell you.
Yeah, it seems like to be a mix of that and what's that other movie with the with Macho Man, not Macho Man, Terry Crews as the president.
Oh,
You know which movie I'm talking about? Ah, my God, I'm blanking. I'm blanking on movie names today, guys. I'm sorry. Someone will tell me in the chat,
someone in
guys.
the chat room will.
Yeah, whenever he's like they use Gatorade as like water because it has electrolytes and they're like watering their plants with like Gatorade. It's like in the future, like a couple of
I'm
100 years in the future.
When someone finds out, let me know. I have to definitely check that out. So, writers, to continue to move on this. So, I try to think out what's going to be 10 to 25 years from now, and if we're here at this age debating this, at some point or another, the world is going to have idiocy and I can't even talk myself.
Idiocracy. Yeah, I
Yes,
know.
thank you.
Tongue tied today. We're both tongue tied. I'm getting.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the world's going to have to come together and have a meaningful discussion dealing with the ethics of this artificial intelligence, because we're right now in the Wild West, and I think that there is going to be some causality that is not going to be very positive that's going to come out of this. And if we are the ones who are creating it and we can't seem to come to an agreement as to what is the ethical application and practice of artificial intelligence, what is its real end purpose, and what is its benefit or not benefit to mankind. And if this is through a matter of programming, then there's going to have to be some sort of standards set, because if we continue to go down this road, you could easily have a terrorist organization that has brilliant programmers and develop these rogue algorithms, these rogue AIs that could cause immense damage. And so, looking at where we are now and looking at 10, 15 years down the road, I think we're going to be talking about something that may be very dark. I wish it would be on the upside, but I don't see that. Um, and that's where I'm concerned about, because it seems like the purpose of these AI programs is to run the functionality of what we call day-to-day living, and supposedly taking those decisions off of us so that we have more free time in order to pursue with whatever passion that may be. I think that's a trap. I think that that is a trap, that once you get immersed into that, much like you were talking about people who trip out and don't come back, we may be in a position where we can't get out. And it may be the position that we don't want to.
Yeah, because I think that the things that we have in our society, like currently, like besides AI, actually gives people meaning and purpose in their life. Like you have to actively get out there and do something in order to have meaning in your life. Like You have to do something that you feel good about. You normally have to help others along the way. Something that you're really passionate about and something that you love and like to do. And if we don't have that and everything's just kind of like a hobby because AI has kind of taken over everything, then I think that that's going to not be in a position that we want to do, because we're really not going to have a lot of fulfillment. And with adversity in the world is what makes people create better things. That's how you be better, is with competition, healthy competition, of course, right? But you can't grow and overcome things if you don't have any adversity.
True.
You're essentially going to be somebody that can't even handle to have a conversation. And we're kind of getting to that point right now in like real life, when someone is, kind of confronted by something in real life, they tend to either completely lash out or completely shut down. And that's just going to get continuously worse if the AI, that's the downside
Well, look at what
in
it's
my
done
head.
to memory. Um, I'm dating myself, so I go back 40 years ago when I started in marketing and sales, and I had a Rolodex. I eventually had a golden Rolodex, but I could remember 30 or 40 numbers. Today, most people can't remember their own phone number. And that is so I've had time to see this shift in how we as a species or society, where we're now allowing on a machine to remember for us. And isn't that kind of the Mandela effect? Because if the machine is remembering for us, if the machine somehow doesn't remember correctly, neither would we.
That is the problem. And I think that that's due to the adaptability of human beings.
True.
The reason that we remembered all that stuff before, and the reason that we memorized phone numbers, is because we had to memorize phone numbers. We had to know addresses. We didn't have a phone to remember everything for us. I mean, at some point, the home phones got to the point where you can program a certain number, and like, again, that's the setup, right?
Speed dialing. Yeah.
Yeah, you do the speed dial, hold down
Yeah.
one to dial your grandma or your best friend or whatever. But we didn't have to know that stuff back then. And now that we don't, it's kind of the adaptability of humans. Humans, I think, are the most adaptable to their environment. And I'm 100% guilty of that as well. I probably know 2 phone numbers off the top of my head that still connect to people that
And
I
just being
know.
the devil's advocate, so if we're losing the functionality of that part of the brain for remembering numbers and then categorizing and cataloging those numbers to be associated to a person, so that no longer is a functioning aspect of of our hippocampus. And so if we don't use it, do we permanently lose it?
It's probably like, I don't know, it might be kind of like riding a bike. The way that I look at it as is, for me personally, other people don't have to look at it like this, but for the things that I'm not using anymore in my head, it opens up more room for other things that I need to remember. So I can just kind of go in, delete some things that I don't need anymore, and then I just re-upload things that I actually do need to remember. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's the way that I kind of look at it.
And
Because
then I can
if I needed to remember those things again, I 100% know that I could go back and memorize a handful of numbers if I needed to. But I think the point is that we don't really need to anymore. And it's the same with like GPS and like using your phone to navigate now. Now people, they don't have to know where anything is at. And I'm guilty of that as well. Like anytime I'm in the car and I'm going to a place that I don't know, it's GPS on that screen. Even if I've even been there like a ton of times and already know how to get there, I still got the GPS up on my phone.
So the former preacher in me, as I look at that and I go, isn't it amazing how we put such faith into these machines? They're
Mm.
going to guide us, they're going to tell us, they're going to keep us safe. And and I think I just wrote a little note to myself here. So it would be a good test just to see if a person could remember 10 phone numbers, and how long would it take you to remember those 10 phone numbers and commit them to memory. Because I kind of believe that if you don't use it, um, if a person doesn't know how to remember, then I think that plays a huge role um, in affecting us as a society. I mean, it's like this. When I was in school, they taught us cursive writing. We learned how to print, and then we learned what cursive print was. Today, high school students, and they don't teach cursive writing anymore. And now you have students who are graduating high school coming into the workforce, interacting with people who still use cursive writing, and to them, it's a foreign language. That's what I'm talking about. Just these things that the older you get, you see more of them, and
Yeah, the danger of that would be that someone that didn't have to go through that process of having to memorize a lot of things, but that's the way that I always learned things, was through memorization. That's how I played music. That's how I played
right.
guitar, piano, drums, like anything that I did, I had to flex a different muscle than other people. And that gave me a really good memory. That's the only way that I was able to learn things, was through memorizing them in my head. But for someone that never had to flex that type of muscle, and that it's all essentially on their phone, they would be lost. I don't think that they would be able to figure that
There,
out.
and it's kind of, I need to think about exiting, but that is a perfect segue because so what happens if this technology goes away? What if AI does go away? I think we're going to be a species going, let's ask Google how we react. It would then, the question, I guess it becomes then, would we collapse as a society? Would there be anarchy? Would there be completely collapse of morals, ethical actions, etc.?
I think that if it's ingrained the way that they want it to be ingrained, and then it all of a sudden went away, there would be a really big change, and probably a lot of chaos. Just like with anything that is a staple in our society, like if all of a sudden cell phones no longer existed, it's going to be a really big
Well,
problem.
and then, I was reading a white paper on ethics on AI, and they were in the paper. The author was trying to begin to realize that if we don't have ethics, and it's not programmed into AI, artificial intelligent algorithms out there, where, in other words, let's say AI did have this weird ability to somehow coalesce and collect. If ethics, morals, the things that distinguish us as humans, if those are not written into the program, what are we going to be left with?
I agree 100%.
It's
And
it's a scary. You think about it. I mean, would a program know that killing is wrong? I mean, supposedly they have programs that they can uh, do those type of nefarious things with. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why not? You've got virtually programs that can do everything else. But if it doesn't have this ability or the empathy, knowing that killing, lying, cheating, these things are not wrong, and there's no repercussions for it, then what are you going to end up with?
I think what we should do, Wayne, is have the AI read the Bible. And if it reads the Bible, we'll set that on its moral compass, and no one will, that's when it'll know that murder is wrong, because there's zero murder in the Bible. God doesn't kill anybody in the Bible, and it's a part of the Ten Commandments, right? thou shalt not murder.
Yeah, you should have seen my show today. In fact, Ryder, it was a fun show. It was this book here called The Genesis Centaurium Septarium, and it's basically, it means the beginning according to the serpent. Have you ever read the book of Joshua?
No, I haven't. Is that a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, or a part of
No,
Joshua?
well,
Is
it may
Joshua in
be
the
a part.
Bible?
It may be, but in the book of Joshua, this is where God held the sun for 12 hours to allow the children of Israel to go into the land of Canaan and basically rape, pillage, burn. And if you read specifically what happened in one particular military operation, because that's what they were. So the Israeli children of Israel, the soldiers went in, killed all the men, but they brought back the children and the women and the livestock. Well, this pissed God off. And God told them that, why didn't you kill the women? And this is what God commanded the children of Israel to do. They were first to kill all the boys. That meant impaling them, cutting their throats, children. Then the young girls, you were to kill all the women who had had sex. They basically, if they've given birth, they were dead. Then the young girls were given to the soldiers for their sexual appetites. That's the God of the Bible.
That's a just
And
God.
so
That
if
is
we
a
teach
just God
AI
right there.
that, so AI is going to get the thing. In fact, AI already knows this. But wait a minute, your God, it's really into murder. It knows it very well. It's into slavery. So then why wouldn't AI super intelligence go, well, if that's what God does, why shouldn't I do that? Boom.
That's right. That's right. I think that's a perfect plan. That will not make AI super homicidal or genocidal. Everything will be good if we just give it the Bible, and everything will
No,
be
what we
great.
ought to do is give it some LSD. Let it really trip out. I'll guarantee it'll come back writing its own moral code. And it would look like something like this, right here. It goes, children, chill out, sit back, and let me take you on a trip.
We're going to rewrite this Bible in the way
We're
AI
gonna
version
rewrite this thing, baby. We got the Paisleys and we got the Tracers, you know.
Take it back, run it back, Wayne. Well, let people know where they can find that show.
Right on YouTube, R. Wayne Steiger. It's appreciate it. Sorry, Ryder, I'm going to have to think on that one, because that would be really cool. I mean, it'd be like sitting back and letting AI experience a trip. Yeah.
What would AI dissect from the Bible there?
Could you imagine the music it could write?
Yeah.
I mean, we got Magical Mystery Tour written all over this thing.
Absolutely. Wayne, thanks so much for coming on, brother. Really appreciate it. It was a really fun time.
Ryder, I love it every time. It is an honor and just a real joy to share with you and with your audience. It's the rare things in life, and this is one of those.
Thank you very much. It's always an honor and a privilege to have you on. And Wayne's link to his channel is in the description of this video. Can't recommend his channel anymore to anybody that's not already subscribed. And thanks for everyone for being here in the chat. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel and the algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.